In 2022, we started a journey to find one of America's rarest crystals, caledonite, a copper-based crystal found only in 2 places of California. We spent 3 days exploring mines in the eastern Sierra Mountains, scouring thousands of feet of tunnels looking for copper veins. For the first few days, we found traces of copper, 2 large deposits, remnants of the past, and autographs from a lifetime ago. On our last day, we found one last mine 800 feet up the mountain. Within its walls, supported by 140-year-old timbers, held everything we had been looking for.
That's crazy, look at that, that's just a full-on tree.
Veins of galena, copper, and quartz covered the walls, creating pockets of platy calcite, druzy quartz, malachite, chrysocolla, and chalcopyrite. With night quickly approaching, we were running out of time. We honed in on one last copper deposit. It was obvious that previous explorers with better equipment beat us to it. Armed only with chisels and a hammer, we lacked the proper tools to extract what I believed to be a source of caledonite we were looking for. Out of time, our only option was to head home. In 2023, we set back out on a 4-day journey with upgraded PPE and equipment. I spent weeks researching historical mine records and geology maps to hone in on someplace new, taking us 100 miles north to the rim of the Long Valley caldera. Here, a new mining district sits on the collapsed rim of one of America's 3 active supervolcanoes. 760,000 years ago, this supervolcano erupted in an explosion 2,000 times larger than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. 150 cubic miles of material was ejected, sending ash as far as Nebraska and creating a pyroclastic flow southward, forming a 1,000-foot thick layer of rock called tuff. As a bonus, as this material cooled, convection currents were created, forming tens of thousands of vertical columns called welded tuff. After the eruption, the volcano collapsed downward on itself nearly 2 miles, forming the Long Valley caldera. This event redefined the landscape. The rim of the caldera became a new fault zone, uplifting land eastward. Here, only the highest peaks avoided the pyroclastic flows shown in pink. Over millions of years, the underlying magma chamber forced veins of lava and hydrothermal fluids through these ancient mountains, erupting to the surface and forming vertical walls of quartz, holding what the prospectors were after, including gold, silver, copper, lead, and even radioactive materials. From my research, a mine in this area is the only other place in California where caledonite in crystal form has been found. So begins our journey. This trip began with a 300-mile drive north, just a week before a historic flood event hit the southern Sierras, destroying the area's infrastructure, including roads in the Alabama hills and the main road up to the town of Cerro Gordo. With all this damage still fresh, we weren't too happy to learn that another storm was on a direct path with us. We reached our turnoff to begin the 10-mile drive on dirt roads that we could only hope were spared from the carnage. Luckily, any major washouts had already been repaired. Eventually, we reached camp, an abandoned mine in the center of the mining district that we would be calling home for the next 3 days, catching an amazing sunset with the drone. As night came, it was time to hunker in and refresh on tomorrow's plans. It's a nice little tucked away spot. Un pancake?
Un flippage. Let's see if I can do it. Oh. Ooh.
After a quick breakfast and I think some equipment calibration, it was time to begin exploring, starting off right at camp. Video of an unstable portal. First time using the DSLR in a mine. Wow. A lot of support in here. Oh no. Look at these timbers, they're splitting. It's the end of that one already. This whole section's looking gnarly. On to the next one, I guess. Incline shaft. Yeah, I saw this in the drone last night. That one and that one should be open. That's what we're looking for. It's got pockets in it. I like that. At the door and everything. That's funny. Oh, this might have been a powder room. It is. Yeah. Oh, nope. Depressing. So we quickly started running into issues. Nearly every mine surrounding our camp had collapsed. We hopped in our trucks and made a quick drive to another site just down the road, finding another 3 collapses and 1 vertical shaft which we lacked the climbing equipment to safely descend down. Reviewing the area's geology explains everything. As mentioned earlier, this area of the mining district is built on nearly 1,000 feet of ash flows and older sedimentary rocks. Over millions of years, underlying magma and hydrothermal veins creeped up through the region. Through a process called contact metamorphism, the heat from these veins and magma baked the original sedimentary rock into metamorphic hornfels, a harder but brittle rock. This resulted in mine entrances being built in loose sedimentary tuff from the eruption before progressing into brittle hornfels rock as they mine towards the veins, creating a generally unstable environment which has collapsed over years of decay, snowpack, and earthquakes. If we wanted to actually make progress on this trip, we needed to move to some proper hard rock mines. Going back to our map, it was time to focus on granite. The southern range of this mining district has a mountain made of it. The mines here are focused on the northern edge of the mountain where the veins intruded through the granite. Something I meant to mention earlier is that we're looking for a specific type of rock called aplite, which was found in many of these veins. Here's a cross-section of a real-world example of an aplite vein. You have the original rock progressing into the aplite vein in which large crystal growths can be found. So with that, we headed west. That's the goal. This was a gold mine with a long and successful history. We climbed up looking for potential entrances, coming across a pretty gnarly incline shaft referred to as a chimney. Wow. Judging from the direction of these adits, there should be more portals that direction. It being this close to the surface, they would have to connect it at some point. Right there. Right there. 2 more. And right there. Tramway for getting the ore down. All right, let's check it out. Eventually, we chose one that seemed doable, something we would come to regret very much, very quickly. Literally a piece of pirate
on the wall right off the bat. Right there. What does it look like?
I think it opens up on the left.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a crawl. Good over here. Also smells a little funky, so you have your gas sensor on?
I do.
All right.
200 feet in, we hit a wall.
I was hoping this was a backfill and that this would open up.
We were crawling over a backfill. Waste rock not worth the effort to remove. This mine and the others just outside of it were prospects, basically test mines trying to find a vein.
It's been a long, tough day. We're gonna head back down. We have one more possible entrance at this mine. It's not every day someone's like, hey, let's go climbing a mountain with a backpack full of metal tools during a thunderstorm.
Oh yeah, the first mine was the one we should have done the whole time.
So we have powder room, ventilation pipe, and tracks immediately. Awesome.
This was looking promising. Leftover infrastructure and a 200-foot straight shot to the biggest chimney we've ever seen, likely connecting to the one at the top.
And it looks like an incline shaft that collapsed. Yes. Wow.
An interesting find in here was it looks like they assigned minecarts to the ore chutes, probably keeping Fred very busy.
This appears to open up.
From here, the only way forward was through this.
Might just be foul, but this is not open. We have water leaking in through this fault line, forming this calcite layer. Veins of clay, literally. All of this, called clay.
This area was interesting. The miners did a great job at extracting the ore, leaving behind the visible fault lines.
It's crazy. Oh man, that is gross, dude. We have a dead solidified bat to the wall.
Oh, gnarly.
Water was squeezing through many of these faults, forming heavy calcite layers and other mineral formations like these dendrites, often confused for fossils. Unfortunately, there weren't any real indicators of copper or quartz left in this mine, so eventually we just started mining.
I think we go for this one. See what it has. I see. Right there. It's a cool little streak of grain right there.
I feel like that it's on a slab that's just...
It is, yeah.
By the way, bonus points for anyone who can identify this rock. Sulfides, hornblende, I'm really not sure. After a couple of hours in this area, it was time to head out and settle back into camp for the evening.
Good morning. Today is Saturday. We had a great night's sleep. Today's our last full day here before we're going back to SoCal. The rain has finally stopped and we have nice clear skies, although now we're realizing it's really hot. We're pretty pooped already. Yesterday was definitely one of the most intense exploration days I've ever had. We went to 4 different mines, crawled into like 10 different portals, most of them collapsed. We are packing up and we're off to check out the last 3 major mines of this trip. Really glad I finally bought a helmet. I put it to use yesterday. Knocked my head on a few different areas. But no, I was really happy with this campsite. Pack up and we'll see you at the next mine. Looks good. Don't trust ladders, people. Got our first signs of copper. This is the end already. I feel like we can still work off some stuff in here.
Research showed that this mine was our best chance of finding caledonite. The primary ore vein strikes east at a dip of 65 degrees, coinciding with this deposit.
Alright, so if this is quartz, this will not scratch the surface. If it's calcite or talc or any other kind of clear crystal or mineralization, it will scratch the surface. It does not scratch it. This is quartz. So we have a quartz vein running, running right down here. Yeah. Some crystals forming right there. Damn, dude. Just really hoping. It's not even quartz anymore. I don't know what that is.
Not much of this vein remained. As we prepared to jump to another pocket, Will learned of some bad news. Just over a month before this trip, Will had a shoulder surgery. Days of wearing a heavy backpack resting right where stitches used to be took a toll, tearing right open as we entered this mine. He needed proper medical care, so we jumped in our trucks and hightailed it to the nearest hospital in Bishop. Will got stitched up and we decided to call the trip early, heading back down south. That trip was over 2 years ago, which is just crazy to think about. And while we didn't find exactly what we were looking for, the whole trip just felt like we were jumping through history books, which was a great opportunity in itself. Most importantly though were the learning experiences. Now we went into that trip with pretty much just this map and some other basic research, thinking that if we just followed these red lines and X marks, we would have found what we were looking for. That just wasn't the case. Mines that are built in sedimentary rock, at least 100 years later now, are either going to be collapsed or are on the verge of collapsing, which you don't want to crawl into that. And really, investigating the tailing piles tell you a lot about a mine before you even go inside. The mine that we camped at had multiple colors of tailings, which tells you that they progressed through a different type of rock at some point and possibly hit mineralization. Looking at the tailing piles should have been a key indicator that I noticed before we did that horrible crawling experience into what ended up basically being a prospect, which it was a mine that they were using to try to find the vein. They never did, so they just backfilled it and then abandoned it. And that was the case for most of the mines up on that mountain. And lastly, do your research. I've been looking through this book for probably the last year now and have gone through pretty much 95% of it at this point. And the research that I know now, especially when I was editing this video, is that the chances of finding caledonite in that mining district were very slim. They did find caledonite crystals there, I think as early as 2009, but the distribution was very, very minimal. But I've learned, and now with more recent trips and upcoming videos, things have been a lot more successful. So stay tuned for some other videos coming out shortly, and by the way, I'm in a new studio now. So to close out this video, thank you very much for watching. That was about 6 to 7 hours of footage condensed into about 22 minutes. Part 3 of this series will be the finale, with us returning to the original mine that we went to in 2022. I'm Jake with Pacific Roamer, and I'll see you on the trails.